if your power metrics are in the basement down at 10% and your speed's already at 50%, 40% better, you should totally not be doing speed training. That's a terrible idea.
Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad podcast with Chris Finn, a production of P4S Golf. Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. I'm your host, Chris Finn, and I am flying solo today because I wanted to share with you guys a bit of an experience that I had, not necessarily yesterday, but I will say it was in the relatively recent past, where, obviously at P4S Golf, the kind of the mission of everything that we do is we want to be the best in the world at giving you longevity in the game of golf. And so with that, I have a very low tolerance for BS. So that's actually why I started it. I thought golf fitness was stupid. I didn't think it would work. So I decided to start testing and see if it would actually work. So needless to say, that has not gone away in my DNA. And so as we have kind of grown and as the industry has grown, obviously you guys listening have all seen the massive amounts of different products that are out there. From, obviously in the instructional world, there's tons of instructional aids. In the fitness world, there's also come a lot of speed training devices. Grip strength is a big hot topic these days. Of getting stronger grip is going to improve your club head speed. There's just so many different tools and products out there that naturally my skeptic self starts looking at the claims that people are making, and obviously as we are collecting a massive database, we've got over 10,000 golfers at this point, looking at change data and what sort of things work, you start to see some claims that are out there, and you kind of start scratching your head, or at least I do. Unfortunately, when I start scratching my head, that's usually when I get in trouble. So we actually, I'm not going to name names, but there's a couple companies where we looked at. One had a device that was to increase club head speed, and then the other had a device that was trying to improve grip strength. Both were around the realm of increasing club head speed, because we all know that speed is what sells in the strength conditioning. Or I guess it's not really strength conditioning. That's what I consider it. The general public, everybody listening, it's more golf fitness, right? That's what we call it. So, coming from the background of science and strength and conditioning, physical therapy, the medical field, everything is truly research based. And so, first off, just to explain what that means a research study, a case study, is not research. Okay, if you're listening right now and you've seen anything on social media that says case study says golfer adds X amount of yards, I can't remember if I can swear on this, but it's BS, and it really. It's the lowest form of quote unquote research. It's a one person where something happens, right? They implement something, that person gets better. You cannot make the assumption that will apply to the rest of the general population, right? That's kind of like early golf instruction. They say, hey, Tiger Woods does this, so everybody should do that, right? Everybody's got different abilities and different body types. There's going to be an ideal swing for every person. There are certain elements, obviously, that are important. Like we know, for any golfer listening, the more vertical force you can produce, you're going to swing the club faster if you can produce it at the right time. And we know if you sequence your hips first and then your torso and then your arms and then the club, that's going to lead to higher efficiency as well. Like those are common trends or traits that we see across all golfers, regardless of the specifics. So if you're seeing, and that's the first problem, the kind of red flag, a lot of these companies throw out case studies like they're the word of God. They're terrible. They're not. It's an interesting finding. If at best it says, hey, maybe we should look at this more so. The smallest number of a study that you can actually take stock in generally is about, it's called an N of 30, or sample size of 30. So that means if there's 30 people in there, then you would say, okay, maybe this is something that's pretty legit. We can look more deep, and then you go into the geeky stuff that we go into, methods and all that sort of stuff. But what was happening, back to the point of this episode, what was happening is that we're seeing case studies, and I'm seeing quote unquote studies with like 5 golfers, all of which are in college. And these companies are marketing products to people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, not
not even close to being relevant. And I know at this point, and in our studies, we did a 2-year study. And by study, I mean 2 years, there's multiple different groups. There's one group who's called a control group. So unless you have a control group, it's not a study at all, which means one group who just does basically nothing, right? And then you have another group who maybe does one exercise or one type of movement. And then a third group who maybe does a different type of movement, right? So you have one group who does nothing, and then 2 other groups who do 2 totally different things. And then you say at the end, hey, who got better, right? Because if the group who did nothing got better, then and they got better the same as the group who did one or the other, then obviously doing nothing, why not just do nothing? Because you're going to get the same result. So none of these studies that were coming out had any control groups or anything like that. So we decided we actually were going to partner with this company, and we're going to research and see if there's a better way to do it. There was tons of volume on the speed side being done. So we looked at and we basically said, all right, well, I bet because of other sports, if we said 66% less volume, meaning instead of swinging 100 times, let's have them swing 30 times. And let's see if they get the same results, right? And so we had, and there's some systems out there that use multiple sticks, 3 sticks. There's some that use just one and they change the weight, right? So we looked at, well, what if you used, 3 sticks or different same idea of different weighted, sticks, or if we just use one stick and a light stick and a heavy stick, right? We broke everybody up into these different groups. And lo and behold, we found that, basically doing 30% less, or sorry, 60% less, so 30 swings instead of 100, actually got the same result of doing 100 swings with multiple different clubs. And the person only needed to use one club, which was great. And that's what you see a lot of single club systems out there now, right? But then we looked at, and we actually did a follow-up study. And so in total, we had over 40 golfers in the study across all age spans from kids to, I think we had people in their 60s or even 70s. And basically the result came out that, hey, essentially you could swing your driver, which is about 5% lighter than, or you could swing something about 5% lighter than your driver. So for most people, just swing your driver really, really fast. And that stimulus of just moving faster would actually produce the same effect. With all else being equal and just using the speed implement. Now, because everybody we had in this program was doing strength training, and so everything else was standardized. And so we knew that was truly the only variable. And so when we came out with that, obviously that ruffled some feathers. And unfortunately there was some stuff that happened, and basically what ended up occurring, what in my opinion I really, really wish would have happened, would have been that the other piece that came out is we realized if people can't rotate in their 4 rotary centers, the likelihood that they're going to get hurt doing any speed training system is like, I don't want to say 100%, but it's pretty damn close. I did another kind of case report. I talked to 84 different golfers who'd gotten hurt doing overspeed training, and literally every single one of them who'd gotten hurt failed at least one of the rotary centers. And what we've seen after working with over 10,000 golfers at this point is that's one of the leading risk factors of people getting hurt is they get faster with poor mobility. And it's like, running into a brick wall repeatedly because their joints can't get to where they need to get to, and they're going faster. That doesn't end well. So, we tried to, get them, hey, can we at least, get, these people, get this information to people, and how, your product's really, really popular. Can they at least just like have them do the screen and at least educate them that if they can't rotate, that they're likely going to have a higher risk of getting injured. Unfortunately, that didn't occur. And luckily down the line, I think now that, the protocols have now dropped to now most people don't do more than 30 to start, which is fantastic. And we don't get any credit for it, but honestly, that's not the point. The point is that at least that part moved forward. So despite I would say less than cordial receptivity to the, if that's even a word, receptivity to the actual study, and what we found, which actually I think moves the golf performance industry incredibly far forward, there actually was something positive that came out of it. Unfortunately, not all that we wanted, but at least the needle got moved forward, where now golfers are being told and sold, hey, you don't need to swing that much volume. You can actually swing a lot less. You're less likely to get hurt. So that was the first one. It was kind of disappointing in terms of how it turned out, and personally in terms of how we were treated. But the end result for golfers was pretty solid in terms of less. Hopefully the messaging is now you don't have to do as much. That'll decrease your risk. obviously what we pound the floors with is, you got to pass your 4 rotary centers before you even consider speed training. And then obviously if you are going to go do speed training, if you in our home assessment, we give away for free, where it's literally like, based on where your club head speed is for your age, percentile wise. If you're 50%, so your average for your age, and your power numbers are, let's say 70th percentile, so you're stronger, more powerful than what your speed is, you are somebody who totally would probably benefit from speed training, especially if you have good rotational mobility. If your power metrics are in the basement down at 10% and your speed's already at 50%, 40% better, you should totally not be doing speed training. That's a terrible idea. Or if you fail any of the rotary centers, you should not be doing speed training. That you're what's called a ticking time bomb. This is the bomb squad. We're here to defuse the bombs, right? So the big myth that here we are diffusing is, number one, you do not need really any of these speed training systems if you do the right stuff. You can truly, the research says, 5% lighter than your driver will get 90% of golfers faster. But honestly, also making sure, the most important thing is making sure you have good rotational centers, making sure your power numbers are outperforming your speed numbers. That is the one instance, I would say probably less than 10% or less of golfers of the 10,000 that we see that actually are really appropriate from a longevity and health standpoint to be doing overspeed based training. Now, the other one, this one drives me bonkers, is there's all this stuff out there right now about people, get your grip strong. The stronger your grip is, the faster you're going to swing. Total BS, guys. I will save my research director, Bobby's probably he was on one of the earlier episodes. If you didn't listen to that, definitely go check it out. He always yells at me for telling people stuff before we officially release it. But we train some of the fastest golfers in the world, like literally the fastest golfers in the world. And we test all of this stuff. And we actually, that's an elite level, right? There's no relationship that we have seen there. And that's, now injury risk, if grip is extremely off, can be definitely higher. But in terms of generating club head speed for the average golfer, we actually did a study. We took, if you've ever seen those little grippy things where you squeeze them, right? So we had a company that wanted us to test them for them. So we had 100 members. They all did it, kids and adults. And they all squeezed away. We tested their grip strength before, and we tested their grip strength after, and we tested all their club head speeds. And just like when we did the speed study, we were controlling all of their strength and conditioning programs in the gym. So all of that's level, right? And obviously you have a control group who did nothing, right? And so basically what we found is at the end of it, no change in club head speed whatsoever related to changing grip strength. And so the moral of the story here is, if you do the basics, this is one of my core tenets. If you want to be great in the world, just do the basics, right? So the basics of being a healthy golfer who can play for a long time, and if you want to swing fast, or even just swing, reasonably, you have to have the ability to rotate in your 4 rotary centers, and you have to lift, load or weights. You got to lift weights to have strong enough lower body and upper body to be able to support the speed you want to go. And what we see is just in lifting those weights, whether it's dumbbells or barbells or hex bars or whatever you're lifting, the grip strength required to hold on to those weights and training the lower body and the upper body just in that fashion, and just kind of doing that in addition to playing golf, really is enough to train true grip strength. Because remember, in order to increase strength, guys, you have to present the muscles with overload, which means it has to be harder than what that muscle is used to doing. So there's some training products out there, like those little squeezy things. If they're really light, useless, like not going to be as hard as holding a barbell that has weight on it and deadlifting, or doing a bent over row or pull-ups or anything like those, right? So lots of training I'm not going to call them specifically out. If you go on social media, you'll see them. But there's very poor science behind them. The science, quote unquote science, that is presented mostly are little crappy case studies, which isn't even science, and then these little mini studies on like 5 people, and then there's these attempts to make it applicable to the greater public. So please, just hopefully, what happened to me in terms of in P4S golf, in terms of kind of getting a lot of blowback from these companies, and they start questioning how we're doing the research. Like, these are people who can't even do research themselves. they don't even research their own products before they sell them to the public. This is what pisses me off is we're getting sold as golfers products that are research tested and based on research, and the research sucks. It's like my putting. It's terrible. Okay. It's not worth its salt. So please do your homework. Please, as always, comments, you ask questions. If you guys are questioning, you see something and you're not sure, we just want you guys to have the best information possible and understand that unfortunately research-based, treatment and the physical therapy in the medical world and research-based care started out as this great idea of really making sure the quality of things were there. And unfortunately now it's become a marketing term. So protect yourselves. We're trying our best to kind of give you guys the best information. I got a lot of questions on this stuff, and it really just resonated with me based on the experience I had and how kind of crappy the whole experience ended up because of the blowback, and people didn't get the results that they wanted from us, even though they asked us to do it as a third party. We're going to tell you the truth. And so hopefully you're taking this truth as basically, if you're doing speed training, you should first make sure you have mobility in those 4 rotary centers, and you need to make sure that your power metrics are higher percentage-wise than your club head speeds. If you pass those two, now, of you listening, 9.5 out of 10, or if you're watching, 9.5 out of 10 of you will fail all of that. Guaranteed. I have the stats. I literally have this in 10,000 people. That is a very large sample size. But if you do pass it, or if you start to do the right things, is where we see people in 4 to 6 to 8 weeks starting to be able to get to the point where they do speed training. Well, then go ahead and do it. And there's a specific way to do it, which doesn't require a ton of volume. If you are seeing all this grip stuff, like literally the fastest man in the world has a grip strength right now that is less than some of our high schoolers. Let that marinate for a second. Okay. Now, it's not saying that that's what we want. That's, that's why there can be injuries and whatnot. But literally the direct relationship of club head speed to grip strength does not exist at this moment that we have seen. And I'm just going to say it that way because Bobby probably won't want me to say that it's concrete at this point yet. But if you're listening, you got the early scoop. So hopefully that helps you guys diffuse some of the myths that are out there, and hopefully avoid some of these ticking time bomb tools that, for the right person can be great, but unfortunately for the greater majority of the public, unless you are ready for them, can actually be pretty disastrous in terms of causing some injuries, forcing you to miss some weeks. But luckily it's nothing that can't be prevented or fixed if it does happen. So thanks for listening as always. And we'll see you on the next podcast and the next episode here to hopefully help you diffuse some more bombs as related to your golf game and playing this game for as long as humanly possible.